Welcome back to the Lore and Valor podcast. I'm your host, Justin Watson, and I am joined today by Josh Hayes, Air Force veteran, retired law enforcement officer, and author of science fiction and fantasy for, amongst others, Chris Kennedy Publishing, Atheon, and Bane. Thanks for joining us, Josh.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
And also Sean Patrick Hazlitt, veteran of the United States Army and the 11th Armored Cavalry Black Horse. His job in the Army was to torture individuals like me who showed up at the National Training Center by being an effective opposing force. He's also a veteran of the financial world at a very high level and the author of more than 50 short stories from publishers ranging from Bane to Galaxy's Edge to Vice Media, amongst many others. Thank you for joining us, Sean.
Hey, thanks for having me.
No, pleasure to have you here, and I'm glad we can do this exchange thing because I got to go on Sean's channel Through a Glass Darkly, which I highly recommend, and talk about the Ukraine war and the employment of artillery and rockets there, which was a lot of fun. And I haven't gotten to talk shop as an artilleryman for a while, so thank you for that opportunity.
Oh, and there's also another episode that's going to come up talking about your writing career. And by the way, did you check out the Simple Sabotage Manual yet?
I did not yet. Sorry.
Okay. All right.
I will.
There's another Easter egg for your. If you ever want to sabotage a corporate meeting, the OSS has has an answer for you.
Yeah. There's a lot of knowledge to be had from our forebears who fought the greatest conflagration in human history. So Josh and Sean have joined me tonight because I wanted a crew to go over the really super interesting Netflix anthology series, Love, Death, and Robots. There's not a lot like Love, Death, and Robots on TV, and the closest thing I can think of is the old heavy metal animated movies from the 80s and 90s, if you guys remember those. So we're going to we'll probably get through about half the season today just to try to keep this, somewhat brief. But I know we're going down the list episode by episode, and we'll talk about the impressions we took from them, how we feel about the writing of them, and obviously the art style and everything else is fair game. But we start out with exit strategies. And I want to be clear that Josh and I know who wrote most of these. Sean is blind intentionally. He did not look up who wrote the short stories that these sci-fi, fantasy, and horror shorts are based on. So if he says something that hurts feelings because this is one of your favorite authors, he doesn't know who it is. He's just giving you his honest impression. So, and Sean told me before the show, he's really eager to talk about exit strategies, which premise of exit strategies is 3 robot tourists examining the post-apocalyptic remains of human civilization on Earth. So, Sean, take it away.
So, when I watched the first episode, do you ever have that feeling when you watch something or you experience something where you just want to go outside and just pop a random stranger in the fucking mouth? In the mouth? Yeah,
I said 5 that one out. Sean, Jesus.
Well, we should have started with a different. We should have started with a different one. I sort of stopped myself, but
I'm leaving it in. I'm leaving it in. Keep going. We're doing this live. Not really, but go ahead.
Like it's just like, first of all, there's the personality of the robots, right? They're just like these snarky little pissant pieces of like uselessness that clearly like never lived in a world or a civilization or a place where you actually had to deal with people and had to, it's just like everything's snarky. Everything is just like, it's just like, I just wanted to like grab one by the throat, throw them up against the effing wall and just like beat them until they were nothing but transistors and capacitors and resistors, inductors, and whatever circuit element is your favorite, maybe diodes. And then I wanted to take them like outside and like re-envision the scene from Office Space. Where you have
I was just going to talk about the printer.
Beating and beating and beating.
Someday I just
nothing left.
This piece of shit.
and I want like Ice Cube playing in the background at full blast, where I'm just pulverizing these robots. It's just like everything was just so predictable. It's like, oh, libertarians in the ocean. We know it's a dumb idea. Just say it's a dumb idea. Don't be like a little snarky, like around the stab in the back, like nonsense. Like I could not handle. I get so angry at this thing. Like, yes, it's a bad idea. Just like everything had to be about like, oh, it's just like. Anyway,
Sean, when you started talking,
whoever wrote this, like obviously had never been in a fight, because if they had, they wouldn't talk that way, because you get popped in the mouth. Right? Like if I talk that way in the neighborhood, I get popped in the mouth, and I would deserve it. Anyway, so that's my initial impression.
So you started talking about transistors, or maybe diodes are your favorite part. I started to get to very Dennis Leary vibe there. You know,
I'm Irish. I can't help it.
Maybe the subcockles, maybe even in the liver, maybe in the kidneys. We just don't know. So that was a strong opening. I agree with you that the dialogue is, I tend to think of it, he did not write this, so I can reference him. It's like the worst highlights of Joss Whedon-esque, so much snarkier and quippier than normal people talk. And I like a good quip, and I like some good snark, but when you overdo it, it gets very smarmy. Josh, how are you feeling after this first episode? We know, because you've seen the whole show, right?
Yeah.
So I should say Exit Strategies is a continuation of a season 1 episode with the robots where they did this before, and there's a few running jokes that fall over.
I thought the first one was a little bit more down to earth, relatively speaking. And you're right, the snark really was kind of over the top in this episode. I did think the second time I watched it, I realized that the author was kind of making fun of both political camps, if you want to call it political camps, because he was making fun of basically rednecks in the first, where he met the cowboy survival place, and then later on he made fun of all the uppity elitists that wanted to be on the ocean,
the big tech billionaires,
right? And I didn't catch that the first time. And
no, but he wasn't, though. Like, he was making fun of libertarians, because the big tech billionaires that want to, like, had that cockamamie desire to live outside of, a nation state on, like, in the ocean.
Yeah,
is definitely like a libertarian, like it's like the subset of libertarians in Silicon Valley. And it's cockamamie idea, because you have anything in a salty, like, sea environment, it's going to corrode. It's a dumb idea.
Yeah.
And like that part's accurate, like that it's a dumb idea is accurate, like it's not, but just the way it was done, like he's definitely not making fun of both. Like, whoever wrote this is not making fun of both. It's clearly directed at one side. Like, there's no doubt in my mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you disagree on that, because that makes for a more interesting episode.
I'm like near Silicon Valley, right? I'm like, I know some.
And I was about to say, you maybe have more insight into that than we do. I'm Texas, and Josh, I think you're somewhere in flyover country with me.
Yes.
So I don't know about them. They're coastal elites there, Sean. You would have better insight than I would. But to be fair, Sean, I kind of took it your way too. I think maybe there was an attempt at even-handedness, that when you see this futuristic sea-going community, I tend to think of big tech billionaires who maybe sway a little bit left.
Yeah.
I feel like maybe he's trying to get credit for even-handedness without actually being even-handed.
He just didn't do it well enough.
Yeah. Perhaps is one way to read it. But Josh,
and to be 100% accurate, right? There are libertarians who sway both left and right.
Sure.
It's just given the portrayal of the Texans in the very beginning, and given how high-minded it was, I'm being sarcastic,
right.
snarky. Yeah. I had to be snarky on this
right.
one. I very much doubt that that nuance was in any way, shape, or form kind of floated into the mind of that writer.
I did like the only gag that I really enjoyed was the mines blowing up, and the robot was like, oh, I'm sure they're gonna be fine. They're old, they're not gonna blow up. And as soon as he says it, the mine blows up and kills the bird. I thought that was hilarious.
Okay. I'll go for that gag. Anything
Yeah,
else about the?
No, I just wanted to fight somebody after it was over because it was just like I didn't like it. It wasn't that what they were poking fun of. It was just that like the way that they did it, like this condescending, snarky, like how could anybody possibly think that there's another side to anything?
Yeah.
And it's just like it's lazy and it's stupid. Like there are two sides to every debate, and there are good points on either side. And if you are that lazy that you can't present the other side in a
Very
intelligible way, like,
you set up straw men. You set up straw men rather than addressing the best version of your opponent's argument. Yeah, and it is lazy. But Josh, I feel like we kind of cut you off a little bit. Do you have anything else?
About that was it. No, okay. I mean, it's interesting that there's only a couple of episodes in this whole collection that didn't make me want to bash my face in the keyboard because they were so depressing. Like, even though like they were talking about the end of the world, right? And they were looking at there's no humans alive and everybody's dead. I still felt like I was like, it's kind of funny. Like, it's interesting. It makes me kind of happy at the end. And then all the rest of them, I just want to like stab myself in the throat and go like, oh, it's so horrible.
When we get to our next episode, I'm going to disagree. I think the next one, although it's very dark, I think it's still a heroic tale. I would argue.
That is true.
But yeah, Sean, you want to punch someone in the face over this one. Josh, you kind of enjoyed it because it was a more lighthearted take in the midst of what is a very dark anthology. I acknowledge that.
Yeah.
I will give 20 seconds for Sean to rant a little more if you have anything else you want to say about it. Go ahead. You're on the clock.
No, I just like I didn't find it funny at all. Like not because it offended. Like I'm happy to be offended, right? But like, if you're gonna offend me, be funny about it.
Yeah.
Don't be snarky and condescending and make me want to pop you in the mouth. That's all.